What's up, mortgage coach community? Dave Savage. I am sitting down with Omeed Salashoor out of the Pacific Northwest Seattle market. I recently did a training for his organization, his team, and I'm like, wow, that was amazing. He talked about how he's helping sellers and builders in this high interest rate market, and he was using Mortgage Coach in really smart ways. So, Omeed, welcome to the YouTube channel.
Thank you, brother. Nice to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for what a great leader you've been in our community and for everything you're doing to help us grow Mortgage Coach and value over there at Homebridge. Uh, why don't you just start with, when we were doing the call, we were preparing, it was like, Omeed, what are the ways you're using Mortgage Coach to help? And I said your referral partners, and you just have to say, well, that's builders and sellers. And so you came up with the topic, you came up with the strategies. Why don't you start with, why you picked these strategies in this market?
Yeah, so part of what we're dealing with, Dave, as you're aware, is affordability at this point, right? We've seen rates go up from 2.5%, 3% to 6%. It feels like it's been overnight, but it's been over the last 6 months. And unfortunately, what's that driven into is there's a fair amount of folks that could afford a home before who cannot afford one now. And so as the consumer sentiment, kind of keeps going downwards and downwards and downwards, we have to be the voice of reason in our industry to be able to come up with something, to be able to deliver some hope, if you will, to people about, hey, you can still buy a house and here's all the reasons why you should do it. And Mortgage Coach happened to be a great tool to be able to show and demonstrate that. It's one thing for me to be able to say things, a whole other thing for people to be able to see it and watch it. So that's the reason why we've connected those two.
And what I've noticed when I'm talking to mortgage coaches in today's market, it's all about solving problems. And there's a lot of problems to solve when it comes to mortgages. Affordability being the chief problem that needs to be solved by interest rates going up 3%. And guys, there was an affordability challenge even before that. So now that rates have gone up so quickly, so fast, affordability, showing creative strategies to help families get into homes and help sellers and buyers bridge things together. It's never been more important. So, Omeed, I do believe this may not be the very first time, because I think I might have interviewed you for our channel like back in the day, but this is the first time in a long time. Just tell everybody a little bit about your practice, and then let's get into some specific problems and solutions that you're solving.
For sure. So got into the business when I was 20 years old. That would have been 32, 33 years ago now. Spent the first 10 years as an originator. That's where you and I really connected at the beginning. And when I used to use your product on the disc, on the CD that there used to be. And then from that
back in the day,
yeah. And then from that point forward, kind of took over different branch manager roles and regional and divisional manager roles, et cetera. And then in 2016, I got really tired of all that and decided to come back into the industry as an individual originator. And so at that point, I kind of came back to what was then Home Street Bank, into the original fold of the family that I grew up with. And so now we run a small practice here in Bellevue, Washington, Pacific Northwest, licensed in 3 states. Last year, we ended the year at 99 million and change, right under 100. Have done that now for about 4 years running. And 78% of that has been on an average has been purchased. So I'm very focused on builder business, and I'm focused on retail purchase business and trying to bring value to those 2 segments and 2 groups. My team is comprised of myself, 2 associates that are my production manager and our marketing manager, kind of my right hand, my left hand. And then we have a dedicated processor that works with us here. So we're kind of a 4-person team. Yeah.
Beautiful. I've had a number of, incredibly successful people that just started using Mortgage Coach in this market, and they work with a lot of builders. Are there any nuances or differences with how you use Mortgage Coach with a realtor referral versus a builder referral, or how you use Mortgage Coach as a competitive advantage with builders versus realtors? Or is it the same, or are there nuances?
It's sort of kind of the same, but one of the things that I really use Mortgage Coach for, Dave, is to deliver the message that I want delivered, right? It's always going to be a different message for the realtor, and it's going to be a different message for the builder. It's all about solving the WWIF, IFM, what's in it for me, right? And so what's in it for everybody is different. So we have to be able to custom tailor that messaging. And that's the one thing that I use Mortgage Coach for, to be able to do that.
And what would be, because I really want to ask the builder side of it. I interviewed a lot of loan officers. I have a lot of content on how to kill it with realtors, but we don't have as many interviews and content on with builders. So what is are there some strategies or things specifically you're doing with Mortgage Coach and builders in this market? I want to make sure I get that out on the front end.
No, for sure. And I think that's really important to be able to ask that. So at the end of the day, one of the things that's unique about my practice is, so now we represent 12 different builders around the Seattle area where we are their preferred lender. Part of the fiduciary that goes along with that isn't just to go out there and grab those deals and close them on time as promised, because that's the promise of everyone, but to be able to protect that builder's interest, if you will, within the community that he is building. So if somebody's taken down a big plot and building 12 homes, obviously every sale matters, and every sale counts as the future comparable to his future sales, right? And especially in this marketplace here right now, where consumer sentiment is low, buyers specifically are kind of, circling and waiting to see what that price drops down to, et cetera. And they're looking at it all the wrong way, because for a $10,000 price drop, payment goes down $45, whatever that is. But for a $10,000 concession from the builder, I can make that payment rock and go down 3 times as much as what it would go down just by the other. I can have a 300% leverage instead of a 100% leverage. So at the end of the day, that's the pitch to the builders, and I'll share some of those things with you here today on the screen.
And I would think with a builder, they're a little more sophisticated. I mean, they are a pure business person that is not emotionally attached to business other than the profit that it represents to them. And when they look at the the seller buy down conversation, they're more sophisticated, they're less emotionally attached. They do this all the time. So I would think that that conversation works really, really well with builders. Is that fair to say?
It does, because it enables the conversation to go in a place of, like you said, it's not an emotional conversation. It's a very factual conversation. And at the end of the day, look at, you can either, as a seller, take control of what it is that your concessions look like and what your price derivation looks like, or you can take your chances, list the thing, and allow the market to dictate what your profit lines or your profit margins will look like. It's totally up to you. And so the way that we present this opportunity in these conversations, that allows them to see it for themselves and to understand which way they want to take their business.
Cool. Well, let's do a solution or a problem and strategy that would be builder relevant. Why don't you kind of walk through the story behind this, and then show your screen and show how you use Mortgage Coach and a mortgage strategy to help a builder sell a home.
Yeah. So let's start out with the story of our good buddy James. He gets under contract in December, and his realtor refers him over to me. We had a conversation. At that point in time, he wasn't wanting to or needing to lock. He didn't think rates were going to go up. Unfortunately, he didn't listen to my advice. The builder that he was buying at happened to have a different preferred lender there. And so that preferred lender did not point the home that, hey, rates are on the move and you should lock to protect yourself, et cetera. So this guy was floating this entire time. Comes back alive, and he's closing in July, comes back alive in May and says, hey, the payment has moved up significantly. I'm not going to do this. I can't do this. And now he wanted to back out. Unfortunately, he was over skis on his earnest money, and that was on the line, and he was going to lose that. So the realtor now brings him back over to me again. We started talking about the challenges, and what this guy's challenge was, that he was wanting to put down 25%, and he was wanting to keep his payment at $4,200. And so there's no equation possible. There wasn't any lever for us to pull to be able to bring the rate back down so much for him to get a $4,200 payment. So we kind of did the separation of everything and started to rebuild it back up again. So I'll show you that here in 2 seconds. Sure. Can you see my screen down there?
Yeah, digging the car, the green.
Okay, awesome.
The green Mercedes, and I like the TCA even better. Total cost analysis for any new loan officers to the Mortgage Coach community. Notice that the great job you do of branding yourself. You've got your team information, and it looks like you're showing 2 strategies here. Two options.
Yeah, we're showing 2 options here because here's where he was stuck at 25% down he wanted to put. and that gave him a $4,700 payment. Now, mind you, he had a target of $4,200. And again, as I mentioned, no matter what I did to his rate, there wasn't enough money anywhere available to be able to get it down. Even if I backed him down to a 20% payment, I couldn't grab that 5% down and get his rate down far enough to be able to achieve a $4,200 payment. So this was a dead duck in the water when it got to us. Now, in this case, one of the things that the way that I used Mortgage Coach to be able to show him this, and again, a lot of times I'll have either a Zoom live like we're doing, and I'll share my screen, and or I use the recording feature on the Mortgage Coach itself to be able to record my message. So when this thing goes out to the buyer, the minute that they open it up, two things happen. First of all, I get an email that they've opened it so I can engage if I want to. Secondly, there's an automated video of me that now pops up and explains what it is that they're looking at. That's probably one of the best things about the program. So we went back to the drawing board for this fella and we said, okay, you were originally going to put 25% down and you were comfortable with that. In this case, I'm asking you to put only 20% down. And that was counterintuitive to our buddy here, because he's like, well, wait a second, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I said, stay with me. So if I take his 719 loan amount minus 674, so these two different loan amounts, there's a $45,000 delta here. And at the end of the day, he wanted to have a $4,200 payment to be comfortable. Well, I recommended that he keeps $45,000 of his money out of the transaction and sticks in his money market account. Just let it sit there. If his desire was to have a $4,200 payment and now he has a $4,900 payment, and he's got a $700 delta on a monthly basis. If he takes that $45,000 and offsets his comfort level versus his reality at $700 a month, he ends up being able to supplement his target payment and make it all the same to himself for 64 straight months. That's almost 5.5 years. Now, we know that the majority of all analysts are saying at this point that we're going to be heading into a recessionary period. We know historically that recessionary periods have always brought down lower rates. And so at this point in time, the idea for him was to take your $45,000, park it aside, supplement your own payment. And here's what it all looks like on Mortgage Coach so you can see it. And then in the next 12 months, 24 months, 40, 36 months, whatever the timeline is, we'll be able to go ahead and refinance you out of this loan into hopefully a lower rate to be able to get closer and closer to his target rate where he wanted to be. And so that was a solution that was good to him. He had the ability to be able to offset that payment. He can sleep at night. And on top of it, he didn't walk away from his $55,000 earnest money that was on the table and it was at risk.
And this was a builder.
This was a builder deal. That is correct.
Yeah. So guys, here's the headline. How to help builders sell homes in a high interest rate market. Now, this could also be any seller. This could be a first-time home buyer. This could be a listing agent. And there's a lot of other great examples in the Mortgage Coach community right now where loan officers are using creative strategies. They're either using just 2-1 buy downs, seller funded buy downs, all kinds of different buy down strategies to improve affordability. And not only is it improving affordability for the buyer, it's in many cases, it's helping the seller still, while making a compromise, making a lesser compromise than if they had to actually reduce the price of the home. So I love it. Anything else you have from a builder standpoint?
No, not on this one. I think we're done with this slide.
Okay, but any other builder solutions? Like we're done with this one, but do you have others? Okay, let's see another one. Show another, tell another story, show another strategy.
Yeah, let's show you another story. So the biggest thing that we're dealing with at this point in time, all of us as loan officers and realtors, whoever's on this call, is really what's really happened to our affordability. I went back because we're kind of numbers nerds here in my practice. We went back and we pulled what it is that we closed as far as new construction and builder business goes for 2021. At that point in time, for every 100 buyers that were applying for this at a rate of 2.96 on the average for the fiscal year ending 2021, 87% of the people were being qualified from a debt to income perspective. So 87% of these buyers had a DTI less than 45 or equal to. Fast forward to March of 2022, when rates jumped up to 5.25, that same sample, that exact group of people that we closed, that we know everything about, I went and put them in the machine. And here's what the machine tells me now. Now there's only 36%
Ouch.
of them that are approved. Then I went back and said, hey, since August until March of 2022, since August of 2021, wage growth out here in King County, Pacific Northwest, went up 3.9%. So when I added back in that wage growth, now it's 50-50 as far as what they can qualify for, excuse me. Now, fast forward to that same exact time, from August of 2021 till March of 2021, home price index represented 11.5% increase out here in King County. So when I added back in the home price index, now 26% were able to qualify. And then as I push this forward to June of 22, at rates being somewhere between 6.25% and 6%, only 17% of that same group could qualify. Okay. The problem here isn't the fact that people are spooked and all that. The problem here is that people still need a roof over their head, but now they can no longer afford it. Again, this is the sample size of the exact, these are real buyers. These aren't made up buyers. These are people that I personally closed. This exact pool closes this way come June of 22 versus fiscal year ending in 2021. So that's a problem, right? So how do we fix this? Well, I'm going to jump over to this one.
Well, I want to call out a couple of things here. Go back to that slide if you could.
I'm going back.
Yeah. So first of all, I applaud you. You did a great job of taking data, you localized it, you personalized it, and you even made it around yours. You know, like you were able to speak to the problem in your local market, you know, your local practice in a very confident, clear way. This would, I mean, I'm sure you're using this slide with realtors, you're using this slide with builders, you're using this slide with anyone who's, you know, dealing with problems in this market to say, hey, look, let's break it down. And I want everybody to copy this, the best presenters, they're using a combination of insights, like this is an insight. I want to remind everybody in our Facebook group, there is a tag for insights, and you can search all of the different insights. Most of them are coming from Todd Bellinger right now. He's putting like an insight multiple times a week in there, but this is an insight that he created so that makes the problem clear. Anyone that got this is going to go, I trust this guy. He's got extraordinary knowledge that other people don't have. So I respect him. He has credibility, and I trust him. He's not just giving me that everything's okay. And a lot of, I am seeing loan officers and mortgage professionals that are just like, hey, don't worry about it. It's all good. And no, it's not all good. There's some really tough stuff, but there's also some really good opportunities. So I'm gonna trust Omeed because of this. So now that you've framed the problem, let's show how you're solving the problem with a mortgage coach report.
Yeah. So the mortgage coach report, and again, this is an example of something that we did for somebody that expressed that they wanted to do a 2% seller concession. You can do a 2%, 3%, 4%, as long as your loan to value allows for it. So typically speaking, 5% and above allows for a 6% seller concession. So 10% down payment and above allows for a 6% seller concession. So doing a 2% as an example is going to be safe at most every LTV. Okay. But the idea here was this, Mr. Builder, Mr. Seller, you have a house that you want to sell at 1368. This is an actual live example that we did for somebody in Centhouse. So this is not a made up thing. If interest rates are sitting at 4.25, right? And if you end up lowering and reducing your sales price, you reduce your loan amount from $1,094,000 to $1,072,000. That brings down your payment in the exact same way. So you lowered your loan, your purchase price 2%, your loan amount went down 2%, and your payment, guess what, goes down 2%. But if you end up taking that same concession, and especially Mr. Builder, who have 6 or 7 different homes that are available for sale, and if you yank the price of this one down, this one will serve as the future comp for all those other ones, and you will affect those values and those appraised values because obviously it's within one community, one plat. So the best thing that we can do at this point is grab your 1368, leave the price the same, use that 2% that you were going to use and throw it at the rate, buying the rate down to 475, lowering the payment to 6948, which happens to be a 5-to-1 lever versus a 1-to-1 lever, right? And so if I am able to sit down and lower the purchase price or lower the payment in something from say a $7,200 to $6,900, which represents, I think it was 4.85, something like that percent. If that's the case now, if I have a buyer that had a 47 or 48 DTI trying to qualify for this, and I did this permanent buy down, now they go back down to having a 42 or 43 DTI. Now all of a sudden I went from a place where I didn't have an approval to now I've got a DU approval on this thing, right? So we're actually creating buyers, we're creating affordability, and the builder's happy to do this, and they would advertise it and put starbursts on their signs, etc., that basically advertise this process. And they were able to move this unit as well as other ones, knowing that, hey, they're going to have to give something, because right now the sellers or the buyers are in the marketplace. The buyers want to know that they are getting value. And this is something that they can absolutely hang their hat on and say, hey, I got a rate of 4.75 on a 30-year fixed.
Omeed, I mean, great job, brother. Stop sharing your screen real quick. I want to share something on my screen. So guys, this also reminds me of a strategy. This was shared a few weeks ago by Jeremy Forcier, where there was a seller selling their home for $700,000. There was a buyer that wanted to make an offer at $630,000. They thought that was the right price. The selling agent said, "Don't bother. Like, we're not going to counter. Like, dead in the water." And Jeremy worked with them, put together this seller credit buy down. It was a 3-point buy down. He used, out of the 3 points, he used 2 points to buy down the rate. He used 1 point to offset the cash to close. And then he was able to get the buyer to go, look, like, if they did your deal versus what they want, it's $451 difference in payment for you, borrower or buyer. But if they did this 3-point seller concession, it's like $100 difference. So, for $100 difference in payment, if the seller agreed to it, would you do it? And the buyer's like, we would do it. And the seller said, you know what? While we weren't willing to even counter a 630, we're willing to do a 3-point buy down. And so Jeremy became a hero to a listing agent. He became a hero to a buying agent. He became hero to a buyer and a seller, because he helped solve the problem. And guys, that's the kind of market we're in right now. We need to,
sorry, Dave,
we need to solve problems.
Go back to that share real quick, if you haven't closed it.
No, I can always go back.
Okay.
Let's see. There we go.
Sorry, brother. Okay. One last thing that I would add to this. Let's build not just the fact that we're looking at a 342 or 451, because that's significant. And yes, I'm willing to buy your house if it's only $100 spread or whatever that conversation was. That's great. But let's think about it like this. A $630,000 borrowed at 5 3/4 versus 4 7/8 represents probably somewhere around $5,500 a year in interest payments. So you are underpaying the interest by $5,500 a year. And sure, your payment's $100 higher, but you know what? That $100, some of that's also going towards your equity. It's going towards your principal. Let's talk about the fact that it's $5,500. What's $5,500 divided by 12? That's $458 a month savings, one versus the other, right? And so let's look at the bigger picture as well, and not just the monthly payments. That's important, but a lot of folks in this marketplace, they have the money. $100 doesn't make or break them. It doesn't make that big of a difference. But you know what? Now starts talking to me about $5,500 a year. Now you have my attention.
Yeah, and you didn't hurt the comps. I mean, you're buying the house, you want to get the best deal, but you don't want to hurt the comps of the market. And then that seller paid 3-point concession. I mean, talk to your CPA. There's, I'm not going to tell you there's tax advantages to that, but your CPA might tell you there's some tax advantages to that. So guys, this is a quick checklist. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I have mastermind with the best loan officers in America, both at in-person corporate retreats that I help facilitate. And I've also just interviewed the best of the best. And this is what the best of the best do. To give incredible presentations, they're curious. They are servant leaders. They care about doing the right thing. They're storytellers. They're always tying down the next step. That number 5, it's the combination of like having a slide deck with like 5 or 10 concepts. And that one concept that Omeed showed, that was like one of the 5 to 10 insight slides. They use Mortgage Coach. they're masters at mortgage coach. I put in the 20 reps because that's what it takes to become an orange belt at mortgage coach. So they know how to do it. Guys, they solve problems. You know, that's what they sell. They sell the problems they solve, not the loan programs and rates that they have. They always deliver advice because it always beats price. They deliver a high trust interview. They always find they try to find the heart of the who they're selling to, consistency, and they master it. So guys, we could go on, and Omeed, I would love to bring you back and do another like 2 ways that you're solving problems in this market. But let's close out. Any final thoughts to any mortgage professional, whether they're already a mortgage coach or they're thinking about becoming a mortgage coach? Any closing thoughts for everyone?
Well, 2 things. First off, I think at this point in time, we need to spend, because let's face it, we're all slower than we used to be. So there's time on the table, right? So spend time, sharpening our skill set, learn as much as we possibly can. I jump onto the mortgage coach community at a regular basis. I watch the videos. I get one spark, one idea that then shoots off one action that then possibly gets me in front of somebody who I've never met before. So it's definitely worthwhile. So use the videos that are on mortgagecoach.com. Use the tutorial. If you're not on the Facebook page, sign up for it. Be on there. There's lots of good shares as far as that goes. And then the additional final thought that I would tell you is that for those of us who've done this for a very, very long time, this market is familiar to whatever extent, right? We've all seen slowdowns. If there's folks that are within the shot of my voice here or seeing us here for the first time who've been in this market for the last, say, 5, 7, 10 years, welcome to your first big slowdown. This is what it feels like. Don't panic, stay in the trough, do your thing, serve your people as much as you possibly can, and really give the great advice. And whether they use you or not, it's okay. Trust me on this. Give the great advice. If they use you or not, it's okay. Because at the end of the day, all of these things will come back to you. Somebody will remember the kindness and the advice that you gave, even if they make the wrong mistake with the wrong guy and they go somewhere else, because, whatever, Quicken had such and such rate quoted, they will remember the conversation they had with you and they'll come back to you. Oh, you're muted, buddy.
I have to close out with a few more thoughts because that was so on money. And these are a couple slides that I've been sharing at branch manager meetings. It's easy to get bitter and get scared and get down in this market, but get better. Make sure if you're a manager or leader, start doing weekly best practice trainings on presentation. These are some of the things that I think are most important in this market. If you're a manager, don't just measure how many loans people close and what their volume is. Start managing how many leads did you generate this month? What was your conversion? How many price exceptions did you have and what did you cost? And I always look at price exceptions like that's your selling score. For the loan officers that have the least amount of price exceptions and that they cost the least amount of basis points, it's because they're the best salespeople. They deliver the best problem solution sales strategy. Make sure you're having a 30-minute meeting every week and you're getting your team to share their problems. And then you're sharing success stories of how they're overcoming those. Just 30 minutes a week. And then, as Omeed said, the last one there, make sure you're watching at least Mortgage Coach once a week. I know a lot of loan officers that watch it more than that, but 30 minutes to an hour once a week. And not because of me, but because I'm interviewing people like Omeed. I'm interviewing some of America's most successful servant leader mortgage professionals that believe advice always beats price. Thank you, brother. I look forward to the next one.
Thank you, Dave.
If you got value from this, give it a like, share it with your mortgage friends, share it with your leadership team, and make sure you subscribe to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. Take care, everybody.